Regulatory agencies serve two primary functions in government. They implement laws and they enforce laws. Regulations are the means by which a regulatory agency implements laws enacted by the legislature. You can think of regulations as formal rules based upon the laws enacted by a legislature that govern specific social or economic activities.
Prescription drug prices have gotten too high.
You know, the cost of drugs in this country, we're about the largest purchaser of pharmaceuticals anywhere in the world. And yet we can't negotiate the price.
It has pulled back the curtain on hospital expenses. It has released a database that shows what each hospital across the state charges for 1,400 different procedures and what the real costs of those procedures are for the hospital. The differences can be dramatic.
So why is it so hard to lower prescription prices? We asked Consumer Reports Deputy Editor on Prescription Drug Medication, Lisa Gill, to break it down for us.
The reason prescription drug prices are so high is because there's nothing that puts a stop to it. A company can charge whatever amount of money they want.
Well, the hospitals fiercely oppose releasing the information. They say it's misleading, it will confuse consumers, and this isn't really what anyone's paying, so it's just, there's not really any point in paying, in putting it out there.
What accounts for the differences?
Well, what accounts for the differences? That's the big question, and that too is not clear. You know, hospital costs largely come down to what you'd expect: personnel, facilities, physical plant, technology, how in debt they are, how their finances. The charges, though, are somewhat fictional. They're sort of sticker prices, numbers the hospitals put out there to negotiate with. They're trying to see what they can get out of it.
28 million people experienced a spike in the cost of their meds in the past 12 months. For 4 million of them, the price was so high, they walked away without their prescription. For whatever reason, prices are just too high. So is there any way to solve this problem?
So for the actual retail price of a drug to go down, we take either government intervention or for the marketplace to actually respond and lower the price. We are nearing a crisis point with what Americans can afford for medications, and it is scary, and as far as we can tell, there's no brakes on it at this point. Congress may have a few things up its sleeve, but we're still waiting.
Regulatory agencies serve two primary functions in government. They implement laws and they enforce laws. Regulations are the means by which a regulatory agency implements laws enacted by the legislature. You can think of regulations as formal rules based upon the laws enacted by a legislature that govern specific social or economic activities. For example, if a new law is passed by Congress that limits water pollution produced by a business, the agency will develop regulations that carefully outline the limits of pollution, how the limits are measured, reporting requirements, enforcement powers vested in the agency, and penalties the agency is entitled to impose under the law. Implementation. The regulation is implemented or made effective, and enforcement commences. Regulatory enforcement is the other primary role filled by regulatory agencies.